Menopause is not something to manage. It is a predictable hormone deficiency state that can be corrected. I'll say it again. Menopause is not something to manage. It's a predictable hormone deficiency state that can be corrected. Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Menopause Moxie podcast, where we strategically challenge the status quo on perimenopause, menopause, and female hormone balancing. I'm clinical hormone coach Marie Hoäg, here with my producer and co-host Maggie Kuhn. Welcome to the show. Today is the season 1 finale, and we're closing by reviewing the top most important takeaways from season 1. The points worth repeating because they sharpen your ability to make informed decisions about HRT and improve your hormone balancing outcomes. If you listened all season, this is your integration episode. If you missed a few, this is your fastest way to catch the core points. Hello, Maggie.
Hey, Marie. So before we get into the top 10 takeaways, let's set the stage with the foundational idea here. People have to understand this to understand everything else. So you don't view menopause like conventional medicine does, or even like many so-called hormone experts do. So please give us your definition of menopause, clinically speaking.
You know, Maggie, I did buy into that, the conventional medicine mindset. And it wasn't until I experienced this clinically. And menopause is really a hormone deficiency state, primarily estrogen deficiency, that predictably impairs brain and whole body function. And this came to me more like an epiphany when I realized, oh, we can control our menstrual cycles with hormone replacement therapy. So it's very different than what conventional medicine is. Mainstream medicine treats it as a menopause more as a cluster of symptoms and isolated problems instead of one unified physiologic decline. And so women they end up suffering. So I believe that if we view menopause as the estrogen deficiency condition that it is, then we wouldn't experience the symptoms that we all associate with menopause, because those are the symptoms not of menopause, but rather estrogen deficiency and other hormone deficiency. But estrogen influences how every other hormone performs. So it's really estrogen that is running the show here.
Yeah, I never looked at menopause that way either until I met you. And frankly, that's when things really clicked for me as well, was hearing your take on this through all of your clinical experience. It makes so much more sense to think of menopause as a hormone deficiency condition. So that's the lens through which everything else is viewed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now that we have that foundational definition set, let's move on to the promised top 10 takeaways from this first season. What do most women misunderstand about what's happening hormonally?
Well, there's such vague language going on when it comes to menopause, perimenopause, and hormone balancing. And a term that really annoys me is the term shift. When people use the term shift, especially hormone experts or menopause experts, I find that when people use this term, they really don't know a thing about hormones. Hormones don't shift, they decline. The takeaway is they don't shift, they don't just move around back and forth and shift side to side. They drop, they decline. And the older you get, the more rapid the decline. And this decline has side effects, mental health side effects, physical health consequences. Estrogen decline changes brain signaling, metabolism, sleep, and tissue integrity. Estrogen influences absolutely everything in the female body from head to toe. Symptoms are not random. When estrogen declines, you'll feel it, first of all, in your brain through depression and anxiety and feeling flat. But then you'll see it in your menstrual cycle quality and the way you sleep, joint pain. And they're not random. So most women, when their estrogen drops at a certain level, they'll experience the same symptoms at the same level drop. So when you review menopause as a deficiency physiology, you can address it. People that use these vague terms with shifts, be careful of that. That's actually a red flag that the person you're dropping a dime on to get your hormones balanced hasn't a clue they use that term shift because it's vague and nobody can really get a straight answer or ask a straight question about it. And then so there's a lot of product selling going on to manage the symptoms of hormone deficiency if the practitioner addressed it as a deficiency disease. So when you view it as deficiency physiology, Maggie, the mystery clears and treatment is now targeted to the restoration and not the management of the hormonal shifts that cause the symptoms.
Yeah, that is just such a key point, and I'm really hoping that our listeners are taking that in. So just delving a little bit further into the brain and mood symptoms, why do they often show up first?
Yeah, many people think that the menstrual cycle quality is the indicator of estrogen is declining, but oh no, estrogen has been in decline long before that. Estrogen is a major brain signal. And if it's abundant and there's enough of it, then the brain is being signaled that they're alive and they need to be healthy and reproductive. And deficiency signals the brain that the brain and body are in chaos. So there's mood instability, depression, anxiety, irritability, rumination, mood swings, insomnia. Most people don't realize that these are all symptoms of estrogen deficiency, not menopause or perimenopause. Women are often treated psychiatrically at first, given antidepressant psychotropic drugs, when the physiological driver is missed, estrogen deficiency. So women are being treated for something vague, like shifts. So, oh, you're hormonally out of balance. Like, what does that mean? Conventional medicine treats these symptoms as clusters of diseases and conditions, and women are shelled out drugs and sold supplements to manage these. So basically, the takeaway on this is this estrogen deficiency shows up in the brain first.
Well, that has been one of the biggest eye openers for me, is as we've talked through this first season, is the mental health implication of estrogen deficiency. And boy, I mean, it is such an important point for people to understand. This is not life getting hectic. I mean, that can contribute to it, but I think most of us are led to believe that this is just aging. This is life getting hectic. This is life losing its luster. And that's just not the case, because I have experienced depression and anxiety when my estrogen is low, when I am estrogen deficient. And when I am estrogen full, my tank is full, I don't have those things. It has nothing to do with age. It is nothing. My life is just as busy, just as full of all the challenges that were here before, but I don't have those symptoms.
See, that's what's crazy, Maggie. It's like clockwork. It's so dependable and it's so predictable, but you have to have enough estrogen to get rid of the depression. I mean, a lot of women spend their lives with this heavy load of depression just over them, just dredging through their day, feeling horrible and can't really figure out why. It's like, why am I feeling so depressed? Like, what is so bad? And so, yeah, it's really hard for women, and they buy into this and they think that that's the way it is. But yeah, you're right. Estrogen does fix that depression and the anxiety that many women are told they have to live with. It's a sad thing, actually.
It is a sad thing, and it's a really hopeful piece of information to know.
That's why I do what I do, because I was just riddled. I've had my share of hospital stays in mental hospitals and on so many psychotropic drugs. If you've heard my episode 1, when I talk about my experience with mental health, the message I want to leave here in this takeaway is that estrogen deficiency, or what we refer to as menopause, contributes to depression. But if we address it as the hormone deficiency condition, we can fix the symptoms for good, as long as we're on hormones.
Yeah. So another kind of canary in the coal mine here, takeaway to point out, is that libido and intimacy often evaporate as women become estrogen deficient. Talk more about that.
Yeah, takeaway number 3 is really about the libido. And you ask most women, they'll say, they can care less about the libido. I had one when I was younger. I don't really need one now. But it is a clinical indicator. Libido loss is a clinical indicator of estrogen deficiency. And it is extremely important for a woman to have a libido, not for reproductive purpose. Well, for reproductive purposes, but Boy, when a woman has a libido, she has a spring in her step. And for some women, it's a little harder to get, especially if you're on good hormones. But it really is a tweaking of estrogen and progesterone to dial in the libido. In fact, estrogen is the most responsible for the female libido more than testosterone. But I find a good combination of those two things, but really getting estrogen restored first. But libido loss is really commonly neuroendocrine. It's not a relationship failure. A lot of women think that there's something going on with their marriage, but in reality, it's like not. And we just had a recent episode here. We talked about the libido and how marriages tend to fall apart because there's this detachment from the mother. And even the husband is even in his own periandropausal state. So there's a detachment. And what happens is women will lose their desire. They don't want to connect with other people. They won't be aroused so easily. They're not receptive to getting close. And some even get uncomfortable with the thought of it. So the lower estrogen gets, the worse this gets. And people don't realize, oh, is this really estrogen? When people realize, Maggie, and you've heard me say this, estrogen influences everything down to the core of every cell. And why we're still ignoring all the studies that are even out there. They're always talking about, oh, we need more studies. We need more studies. Let's just talk about the ones we have. Let's use those and help women. And so women internalize this libido as shame, and we shouldn't. There's ample data that suggests that estrogen is responsible for a woman's libido, bottom line. And it is a clinical indicator. So if you're listening and you don't have a libido, and even if you are on HRT and still have symptoms of menopause, well, you're either underdosed or not on the right HRT protocol, because estrogen really is that libido hormone. I'm not saying it comes back full force for every woman when she gets her levels in the hormone sweet spot. There are other factors that play into, and you'll hear that in the libido episode, that play into a libido. So, but don't think that a libido problem is a marriage problem. If there's a libido loss, then I would question, is this my estrogen?
Yes. Well, and you started to hint at number 4 takeaway is that a lot of women will say, well, HRT doesn't work for me, or I tried it and it stopped working. What's going on there?
Well, I have to say the majority of women who are on HRT and they're still having symptoms of perimenopause or menopause, one of a couple things are happening. They're either underdosed, misdosed, they're on the wrong HRT system, because there is a sweet spot. There is a place where each hormone has its level of optimal, where that hormone performs best. When estrogen's tank is completely full, as you mentioned, Maggie, when all these hormones are in their optimal ranges and work together like an orchestrated symphony, then the body wants to work, the brain works, the processes of the body wants to work, the menstrual cycle starts flowing again without incident. And so if a woman says, oh, I've tried HRT and it's not working for me, well, you're not on the good stuff. That's what I tell women. Say, I'm on HRT and I still have migraines. And I say, well, you're not on the good stuff, because the good stuff fills up your tank and doesn't leave you 2/3 empty. And that's the conventional medicine approach. Give women, fill up her tank about 1/3, if that, and then treat the symptoms that patients still have. And advanced hormone replacement therapy, our goal is to fill up the hormone tank to the brim so women don't experience the side effects of hormone deficiency. And this is where we need to go.
Yeah. And those listeners who have been with us on this first season journey have heard me say a number of times, I was one of those women. I was put on low dose HRT in perimenopause. And so I thought I was on HRT. I thought I was on the good stuff. I thought I was taking all of the right steps for my long-term health. And yet those symptoms, not necessarily hot flashes, but some of the more subtle things were coming back and showing up. And I was one of those people who thought, not that HRT wasn't working. I thought, well, just at a certain point, there's nothing that can be done. And so this has been super eye-opening for me to find you and hear about your philosophy and this idea of truly filling up the hormone tank to full. And that has made all the difference in the world for me. And so I really hope women are taking this to heart, at those who think that they're on hormones and are finding that they don't feel great or that it stopped working. You're not on the good stuff. You're not on the protocol that is going to fill up your tank, as Marie talks about.
Yeah, we refer to that, yeah, as the panacea protocol. But, one thing I wanted to mention when I tell women, if I'm just talking here and there, women get offended when I say, oh, you're not on the good stuff. I mean, they really get taken aback by that, almost like clockwork. Because what do you mean? And they do that because, like you thought you were on a good hormone replacement therapy protocol, but also on the other hand, it's not working. You're having problems. So yeah, the good stuff means getting enough.
Yes. Yeah.
And taking it the right way. That's another thing too, is getting enough hormones and then taking the hormones the right way is really the other trick of the trade.
So let's talk about progesterone for a bit here. Our next takeaway number 5. What do women need to understand about progesterone? This is another one that I hear so many women complaining about or having problems with or not taking or misunderstanding. So tell us what women need to understand about progesterone.
Progesterone is not a woman's primary hormone. It is a secondary complementary hormone to estrogen if there's enough circulating estrogen. That's the bottom line. When you take progesterone, it needs to be taken in a cyclical fashion, the way the body naturally produces estrogen. See, women produce low levels of progesterone in the follicular phase, the first 2 weeks of her cycle. But progesterone starts to increase around day 14 and it peaks between days 21 and 22. This is a rhythmic biological secretion of progesterone. When progesterone is restored in this fashion, and you don't even have to tightly mimic the natural physiology administration of the hormone. You just need to take progesterone days 14 through 28, even if it's a static dose. And when you stop taking it, you can, get your menstrual cycle if estrogen is plentiful. Progesterone, a lot of people think that progesterone is the calming hormone, but as I mentioned, it doesn't work. No hormone, no other hormone in a female body works to its fullest ability, capacity, fullest function when estrogen is deficient. So the most important thing with progesterone, you need plenty of estrogen. You need to cycle at days 14 through 28. When I hear these women, oh, I take it every day. Well, some women need it every day, but extremely small percentage. Or I take it when I'm on my period. I hear these stories. I'm like, why? That's when your body doesn't have it. That messes up your entire cycle when you take progesterone. I mean, this makes a mess. That goes against your body's natural physiology. Why would a practitioner prescribe progesterone in a woman's follicular phase when it should be low? What that does is it downregulates estrogen, and it causes problems in the luteal phase because estrogen can't get high enough for a receptor response. This really makes a big mess. This is the difference between low dose conventional standard of care medicine and advanced protocols where providers are trained on physiologic restoration. So plenty of circulating estrogen is needed. There are so many benefits to progesterone, and estrogen and progesterone, as you've heard me say, Maggie, need to work together like yin yang, two halves of one whole hormone to regulate a woman's body from head to toe. And those two hormones have to be prescribed correctly and dosed correctly. And this is where women are having problems here, is they're not finding practitioners who really understand how to prescribe hormones. So many women blame progesterone for making them feel bad when they take progesterone. Well, my doctor gave me progesterone and I feel worse. Well, because they're trying to manage symptoms of estrogen deficiency with another hormone. And so the big takeaway here is progesterone needs to be cycled. There needs to be plenty of circulating estrogen for it to work. And estrogen and progesterone work together like yin yang together in a rhythmic fashion to help a woman reestablish and maintain a healthy menstrual cycle for as long as she chooses. And it's not the menstrual cycle I want to interject here. That's the important part. It's how women feel when they have a menstrual cycle. That's the most important part. The period bleed is just an incidental thing that most women don't really have a problem with.
So takeaway number 6, let's talk about what success is in terms of hormone balancing. How does a woman know her HRT is actually working and is successful?
Well, one, she will feel it in her brain and body. She'll feel it in her brain and body when she has enough. She'll feel it in her brain and body when she has too little. That's why I talk about HRT is like Goldilocks. Filling up a woman's hormone tank is like Goldilocks. She can have too much, she can have too little, but we're looking for the optimal range. And there's no reason to guess in this day and age. There is a little bit of guessing, but it's strategic. The best way to find out really if a woman's hormones are balanced is to take a clinical indicator assessment, which is what we do, the hormone balance test, and blood draws. And so we monitor estrogen in a female hormone panel and we match it up against clinical indicators. And that's how we know a woman is in her true hormonal balance that we refer to as the hormone sweet spot. So there's no guesswork. If a woman is on hormone therapy and a month passes and there's no improvement, you're misdosed. You'll feel it. In fact, that's what happens, Maggie, is some women, as you know, when they take HRT for the first time, they'll feel it in their brain and go, oh my gosh, this is great. But then a few days later, they'll be like, or even a week or two, even a month later, they'll be like, what happened? I don't feel as good as I did when I first started. That's because the brain and body just sucked it all up, and the dose that you're on is not enough for what your brain and body require to function and to thrive. I mean, it takes a pretty good amount of estrogen to orchestrate the processes in the body, to get all the rebuild the tissues and the organs and the processes, and to get them to function. This is why women feel better and better and better. The longer a woman is on estrogen, she just feels better and better and better. Boy, I've been on advanced HRT for 12 years, but on and off because we were, trying to find good protocols before that. I cannot imagine ever getting on. And I just, it's not that I feel better and better and better, because there is this place where it's like, yeah, I have plateaued out on feeling good and I am good. I don't need more. And I would be bummed if I had less. And boy, when it really drops, that's a bummer. So that's why I keep my estrogen right in that pocket, right in that hormone sweet spot. This is how women can control their brains and their bodies. Women have no idea, Maggie, how much control you've got the lever. You can control your brain and body. This is the secret that women have been looking for.
Well, and it's stunning that this information is known, it's out there, and that most women and doctors are still in the dark about this.
Well, there's so much confusing information. I don't know how a woman can keep it straight. I feel really fortunate that I've been in this industry as it has evolved over the past couple of decades. And that's why it's just that there's a difference in the type of HRT that's taken, the prescriber that's taken it, and how they prescribe it, their fear of estrogen. And so getting on an advanced HRT protocol is extremely important. The mindset of your practitioner, the training they've had on estrogen and other hormones will make or break a woman's hormone balancing experience. This is why I'm so much into education, so women can understand you need estrogen. And the doctors that you're most likely going to are underdosing you. And so, I mean, finding an advanced hormone balancing clinic is tough, but I will just take a moment here and direct women to the Panacea Sciences Advanced Hormone Balancing Clinic. If you don't want to mess around with this, go to advancedhormonebalancing.com. I'm biased. I think our clinic is the number one clinic in this country that restores hormones to the hormone sweet spot consistently and sustainably. There is no more clinically effective protocol for restoring hormones for women than what we do at Panacea Sciences. The Panacea protocol really is the way to go. So I did that little plug there, but it's like where do they go? They go to the doc. Can you give me more? Can you give me more? I mean, how many times did you ask for more estrogen, Maggie?
Well, I didn't even know to ask for more estrogen at one point. My journey has been probably somewhat typical, although my first experience with HRT, I was living in a foreign country. And so I had a doctor who was European trained and did not have the fear of estrogen. And this is when I was in early perimenopause. And I was at full restoration with him. I didn't realize it because he didn't use those words.
Yeah.
But I felt fantastic. And then I came back to the States and went through all kinds of different providers who it was all guesswork for the most part. I have been loaded up on progesterone with almost no estrogen on one end of the extreme, to having that experience of a physician who was trying to tell me that at a certain age I had to get off of HRT, and she was trying to crank me down off of estrogen after I'd finally started to get enough and was feeling good and better. Then she's like, well, bad news, you're going to have to get off of it. And and then that's when I started really doing a lot more research on this. And that's how I came across you then, Marie, and
And
started on
women,
a full restoration journey.
yeah, I mean, you make such a great point. It's like these doctors, once you're getting enough estrogen and you can feel it, and your doctor comes to you and says, we're going to have to take you off. I want women at that moment to say, why? Based off what? How many patients do you know have gotten cancer from estrogen? Are there any studies that clearly point that estrogen causes cancer? Do you have any patients? Do you know of anybody? So you want to take away my life, my brain, and the functionality of my body because you don't know? This is why it's so important for women to understand what they need so they can seek out a provider to give them what they need. This movement on low dose menopause management, I think will fizzle out, as I've mentioned before in the past. Women will demand, and you may not have asked for more estrogen because you didn't know, because your practitioner told you, oh, you need progesterone. You didn't know. But let me tell you something. Women know when they need estrogen. There's a lot of women that know, and they'll say, can I have more? Can I have more? That was one of the problems we had in the clinic. We're told that this is all a patient can get. Patients are asking us for more estrogen. We go back to our mentors and we say, what do we do? And now they say, oh, well, are you selling supplements in your practice? And we're like, well, no, we want to get women feeling better again. They felt good when they started the hormones, and now they're not any longer. And it makes sense to increase the hormones. Oh, can't do that. But nobody gives you a straight answer.
Well, one
And
of the tip offs would be, so the last physician that I was working with before I found you and Panacea Sciences, her philosophy, which is common, is as little hormones as possible for as short amount of time as possible. Now, she didn't have that emblazoned on her forehead, but that was her philosophy. So, and I know you're going to do an episode coming up in season 2 on how to find a good HRT doctor, but that would be a good question to ask, is what is your philosophy? Because if a doctor says that, that they are low dose therapy. Doctors don't advertise themselves as low dose because they don't know that there's anything other than what they're doing.
Yeah, they have not taken their education and training to the next level. I mean, doctors are really stuck at the second generation HRT, this low dose, but there have been advancements in HRT medicine that's been happening under the noses of the FDA, the medical establishment, and they don't want to go there, because if they go there, there's several industries that would just be wiped out because of the products they sell these suffering women. And that really leads us into the next takeaway, is chasing symptoms of hormone deficiency, because that's where it gets stuck right there.
Right. I see this so often, Marie, that, that women are talking about their symptoms and they're comparing them with other women. And there's this whole symptom chasing thing that seems to be going on. What do you see is wrong with that?
Well, chasing symptoms is never ending. It's like an exercise wheel that goes on and on and on and on. And women go from doctor to doctor to doctor trying to find that one thing that will help them feel better, when in reality, they need an advanced protocol. But the biggest problem with this approach is women suffer. I mean, the bottom line on this, women still suffer, even if they're on low dose therapy. So this is a symptoms chasing, low dose therapy, supplement sales, pharmaceutical drugs, and treatment, surgeries, hysterectomies unnecessarily. I mean, this is why it's so important for a physician to get educated and trained in advanced protocols, because of women's suffering. I mean, if we really cared about women's suffering, we would give them estrogen. They would feel good. and everybody around them. So right now, it's like a whack-a-mole. Low dose HRT, sleep aid, antidepressant, joint pain, anti-inflammatory. Besides, as you heard me mention, HRT stops working in 3 to 9 months.
Yeah, the
And
low
a
dose.
doctor's like, well, you're on hormones. I don't know what you're complaining about. Here, buy this pack. It's a little hot flash kit. Or I'm going to prescribe you the latest FDA approved hot flash medication that you wouldn't have if I got your estrogen up. I mean, this is what blows my mind and was one of the biggest shockers in the clinic when I came to this. It's like, hold on a second. We're not treating women this way. When we found out that, oh, you can get rid of these symptoms of menopause by, well, the symptoms of estrogen deficiency by restoring hormones, it's just shocking to me that we're still treating women with low dose therapies and products. And women, it's women that suffer. And that's the part that bothers me.
Well, and all these new medications now coming out to address various symptoms like hot flashes. I saw one of those ads the other day and I thought, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for women who are, maybe in perimenopause, just starting to experience hot flashes, maybe have no idea. They've heard something about menopause, oh, here's a hot flash. Now I'm going to take this medication. I mean, this is such a red herring, I think, and it's really disappointing for women.
It is a multi-trillion-dollar red herring across the board. And I think there will be a time, Maggie, you've heard me say it. I think there will be a time where the women will rise up and demand more estrogen and stop being treated like pincushions. And that's what it feels like. Oh, you want some estrogen? Here's a couple drops. No, give it to me. Don't just leave me deficient and then sell me a bunch of things and convince me that I have a mental illness that I don't have if you fill up my estrogen tank. I mean, I said that to my doctor. When my doctors didn't know what to do, we're going to send you to the Stanford psychiatrist. And when I went to see him, I'm like, okay, so you're going to write me a prescription for 6 different psychotropic drugs to manage the conditions I have here off of estrogen. Or I can get back on estrogen and have none of them. And you're trying to talk me off of estrogen. Doesn't that mean anything to you at all? Like, do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? I mean, that's what I was saying. They're like, oh, well, I'm a Stanford grad psychiatrist. I'm like, so they're not teaching advanced protocols at Stanford. Is that what you're saying? I mean, it was quite an appointment I had, but then and that's when I just said, you know what? I've got to do this on my own. If I continue with the way, and I'm not telling women to leave their doctors by any means. This was a decision I had to make. It was a journey, and I had to say, okay, this isn't working for me. I never want women to stop doing what they're doing or stop care or stop medicine. No, none of that. Don't get me wrong. I was at a place in my life where I just thought, you guys, you really don't know. You really don't know. Everybody's just guessing, and y'all are just shoveling out these psychotropic drugs, turning me into a shell of a woman. So I'm not in here next month in a rage. So now I'm kind of a shell, and I'm coming in here telling you, yeah, everything's fine. I turn into a Stepford wife.
That's why we do this podcast. I know it's why you started this podcast.
I'll just drop that ball on your lap because it's frustrating. I get frustrated. You see me getting heated over this. Women are suffering needlessly. And this is what gets me the most because I was a victim in this. You were a victim in this. This is why we do this podcast. Like you mentioned, yeah, it's like women, it's a voice. It's not what everybody else is saying. It's not, it's a bit amateur. I get it. That's okay. But this is the message. And if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, then move on.
Well, at the very least, women need to know that this is an option. This exists. Mm-hmm. And that's all that you can really offer is just let them know. And then it's up to people to make their own decisions, what works right for them. I know for me, this is how I want to feel. And so this is what works for me.
Yeah. So like, why navigate menopause if you can control it?
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the most radical things that you've shared in this podcast in this first season, that you can control and even avoid or reverse menopause. Yeah. People don't like that. Just saying it. Oh my gosh. People get angry about it.
They do. It's like, you can prevent this. You don't have to experience this. when I got to that place where I was confident that the reason this patient was having a breakdown was because she doesn't have enough estrogen. This was shocking to me in the clinic when I would go to the doctor. Okay, I have a patient here. She's having some sort of meltdown. You know, the doctor comes in, rubs some estrogen on her inner arm, about, a couple cc's of a compound. And less than 60 seconds, she's back in her seat smiling and can't figure out what she was doing on the floor. I mean, it's just shocking how estrogen impacts a woman's brain so much.
Takeaway number 8 that we want to talk about and recap here is this concept of normal labs.
Labs have always been a vague thing in the education of hormone replacement therapy. Like when you go to the conferences like at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, nobody tells you where the lab should be. The reference ranges are set up so that they're confusing. And if the doctor isn't telling a patient when in the menstrual cycle she should get her blood drawn, then it's just oh, this is your number. I'm going to put you into this little box. You're fit into this range. Doctors don't get training and education on reference ranges or where estrogen should be. They say, oh, this is where you are. Here, take this low dose hormone replacement therapy. So reference ranges really describe populations, they're data populations. So basically the average 60-year-old woman living on the standard American diet in this geographical location, this is the average that we get. And so good, you fit in that average range. But that average range, these women are miserable. These women are estrogen deficient. So you're telling me I'm the average estrogen deficient woman. So lab ranges are designed to keep women in a little box. When women they tell me, I try to ask my doctor about labs and they're always so vague. Nobody gives me a straight answer. Where should my estrogen be? Oh, nobody gives me a straight answer. I can't tell you how many times I get that. We give straight answers. We're looking for a range. This is the range we're looking for. Most women do best in this range. Some women need a little more to get to the sweet spot. Some women need a little less to get to the sweet spot, but there is a sweet spot. And standard conventional medicine gets nowhere close to that sweet spot. And so that's why it's difficult for women to, how do I know if my hormones are balanced? Well, one, you've already heard me say clinical indicators. How you feel is one thing. But the other rule that we have is lab work. It's not just when we first learned about labs, they taught us, oh, lab, you got to watch the labs, got to watch the labs. Okay, well, watch the labs, but you're not telling us where they should be. You're just telling us to watch them. And then what? And then that's pretty much it. So normal clinically means deficient. So if your doctor is saying your labs are normal, that means that you're deficient, especially if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Optimal ranges are what we're looking for, but this is also a confusing marketing term that many hormone experts and menopause experts use to try to differentiate themselves. What's optimal? You can't even tell me what standard is. And people are using the term optimal. What is that? And I even use that term because optimal means that you have enough hormones, that hormone is dialed in so much that it will perform to its most optimal capacity. That's what that means. When hormones decline, well, then the functionality of that hormone diminishes. Its impact on the brain and body, it starts to go away, almost like a dying weed.
That is such a point of confusion for so many women and their physicians.
So we use both. And I want to be clear with this takeaway too. It's like, yeah, your lab ranges may read normal, but there is a sweet spot. And I may talk about that sweet spot next season. It's very controversial still. Do you ever notice, Maggie, that nobody talks about lab ranges for women?
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'm going to have to really start doing that because they do that for men, but they don't do it for women. I think because everybody's afraid. Everybody is afraid. Even HRT prescribers are so afraid of being the one that says something that everybody is going to shoot arrows in their back. Everybody's afraid, tiptoeing more about their reputation than about what's best for women. So lab work needs to be an optimal range, but usually what I find that doctors that use the term optimal on their website do low dose therapy. I'm like, where is this optimal? Optimal that you're going to sell them a bunch of products to manage the symptoms to help them feel what they would get if they had a full hormone tank. So optimal performance means optimal hormones where each hormone is in its own sweet spot. And because we've been doing this so long, we know what that is. We know what too much is, we know what too little is, and we know what just right is. And if a doctor has not worked with estrogen to that level, to that degree, they won't know. And they'll always say, oh, well, you're normal. We look at labs and say, you're not. This is where you should be. And this is where we're going with this HRT protocol. And then we'll fine tune it when we get closer to that lab range and make it more custom to you. And that's where the bio-individuality comes in. Yeah, so labs are needed, but in conjunction with a clinical indicator assessment. You can't just go by how a patient feels, and you can't just go by labs. You need both of those. And that's just what we found out clinically to be the most effective. We did it one way, did it another way, and it's just like when you do it all different ways and you see what works, you got to stick with it. And that's where we are with this.
Yeah, there's just no substitute for the extensive clinical experience you've had working with thousands of women over a couple decades. There's probably very few folks out there who really have that depth of experience and have been able to do the trial and error and find what works.
And we need more of that education, which is actually what we do at Panacea Sciences. So, train physicians on advanced protocols. Another plug for Panacea Sciences, but I'm building this company, this ecosystem of a company so that women have a place to go where they can get HRT from trained physicians. Everybody is on the same page. Everybody knows where they're going. It's not a guessing game. It's not a crapshoot.
So takeaway number 9 from this first season has to do with lifestyle and the role that lifestyle plays in supporting HRT being successful and getting to that hormone sweet spot. Tell us more about the importance of lifestyle and where it fits in.
Well, lifestyle is super critical for HRT. Sleeping when the sun is down, exercising every day, eating a good farm to table diet with plenty of animal meat, saturated fats, and raw dairy, fermented foods, those types of things. A clean, healthy gut with those foods is really important for optimal hormonal balance. But also what a lot of people do is they try to compensate their hormone deficiency by lifestyle, like health coaches and even hormone coaches. Oh, we're going to balance your hormones by your diet, managing your insulin, but they're not addressing estrogen. And so there's a term that they use, balance hormones, but they don't consider estrogen. To me, that's another confusing thing for women. So if a practitioner, if you go to a provider who says they have an optimal program and it's all about buying their supplements and their diet programs, but yet they keep estrogen low, it's not going to work. So lifestyle supports a full estrogen tank, but it doesn't replace the problems that estrogen deficiency brings. The only thing that can fix estrogen deficiency problems is estrogen, not progesterone, not a diet, not testosterone, not thyroid. Estrogen is required to fix estrogen deficiency problems. So, and there's never just one hormone, estrogen and progesterones, and possibly testosterone. So lifestyle doesn't do the whole trick with hormone balancing, but is certainly needed as a support source. So there is nothing, and I'll reiterate this, there is nothing a woman can eat or do that can fix the side effects of estrogen deficiency than estrogen. But it is also required. Women will feel good on an advanced HRT system, but not as good as if they were to incorporate these things. And what's nice about estrogen and women who struggle with diet and lifestyle, that when they bring estrogen on board, estrogen is such a motivating and energizing agent for a woman's brain and her physical body that she actually wants to go do things, wants to live her life, wants to exercise. I mean, when I first got on estrogen, I joined the tennis club. I started taking a belly dancing class. I took a painting class with my daughter. I mean, it's just like you want to participate in the world is what happens when you give women estrogen. And this is why we don't worry some. We talk about a proper lifestyle to support the advanced HRT protocols we prescribe, but we don't really get on the patient about their diet and lifestyle until they've had a taste of estrogen so that their brain is working. It's different talking to a woman with plenty of estrogen than a woman without. I mean, just the cognition, you can just see it in their face.
So takeaway number 10, what are the red flags that mean it's time for advanced care?
Well, let's clarify advanced care. Standard of care is low dose HRT designed to keep hormones low at all times. And then symptoms are managed with products, drugs, and other things. Advanced HRT is an approach to female hormone balancing that's designed to fill up a woman's empty hormone tank to the brim, not low dose minuscule protocols, and complement that with a proper diet and lifestyle. So if you're on HRT and it feels like you're not, then you'll probably need an advanced HRT system, one that's designed to fix the deficiency at the core. If your doctor doesn't have a plan for you, if you go to the doctor, see, when we see patients, we tell them what the plan is. This is the plan. We're going to start here. We're going to do this, 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 and this. This is the journey here, every step of the way. There's no question. There's no guessing. So if the doctor doesn't have, oh, let's just give this to you and see how it works. That is not very reassuring. I remember when a doctor said, I'm like, what do you mean see how it works? Are you a doctor? I cannot be the first patient that has come to you with depression that doesn't make sense. So let's try this. Doesn't work out very well for me. So if your doctor say, oh, let's try this, or then let's try this. Okay, then maybe we should just try it. Okay, we're going to try this next time. Let's see how this works for the next couple of months. One, hormone balancing doesn't work that way. You don't just do something like that. That's how you know you're going to the wrong person. Full hormone restoration is not a crapshoot. It is a destination meeting certain clinical criteria. And if your doctor isn't explaining that to you, then you're probably going to the wrong one.
To the wrong. Yeah.
Then if your doctor isn't explaining this to you, then you're not going to the right doctor. You will continue to spend money and pay through the nose to manage your symptoms with products that they profit from. Women need to profit from their estrogen, and they need enough of it. So if women are on HRT and still have insomnia, low libido, low energy, mood issues, irritability, rages, not feeling good, then you're not on a good protocol. Because women with plenty of estrogen, it's very difficult to experience those things. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm sure it does. I don't know too many women like that, but it's what happens when women get enough estrogen. So seeking advanced care means that you need to pay attention to who's prescribing your hormones. What are they telling you? What are they telling you about your levels, your labs, the products that they're selling you? Pay attention. So women should not be coached into accepting this decline. Oh, this is the way it is. You're just like all our other patients. They're on low dose or on patch therapy and they're taking these products. See, isn't this wonderful? This menopause movement, this is how it works. Well, no, it's not it's how it works for corporate and pharmaceutical people to make bank off of women suffering. That's for them. And so the mindset and training really of the physician that a woman goes to will make or break her experience. I say that over and over because women need to start asking some hard questions to their doctors. How do you know when my hormones are balanced? How do you measure that? And if you're getting vague answers, you're going to get vague treatment.
All right, Marie, we've covered a lot of ground in this first season and in this episode itself. But if women need to remember three things, the top three things, can you recap those for us? What are they?
Number one, menopause is not something to manage. It is a predictable hormone deficiency state that can be corrected. I'll say it again. Menopause is not something to manage. It's a predictable hormone deficiency state that can be corrected. It's so worth repeating because if you understand this mindset, then this changes everything. Number two, if you've tried HRT and you still have symptoms, you're still depressed, you still have low libido, you still can't sleep, your joints still hurt, you still can't control your moods, you're on the wrong HRT protocol. The chances are you're estrogen deficient or there's another hormone that's not quite restored optimally. So menopause is not something to manage. It's a predictable hormone deficiency state that can be corrected. Takeaway number three, low dose HRT stops working in 3 to 6 months. Some women can push that out to 9 months. The big takeaway here is stop going to doctors who have no education or training in estrogen restoration. If a doctor is just reading the sample package insert on how to prescribe estrogen, well, then you'll never get your hormones balanced ever, ever. This is why you have to be smart about this. What type of HRT do you need? What kind of labs do you need? Where should your levels be? Can this doctor do it for you? It's going to be up to you to choose the right practitioner to get what you're looking for. And that's true and optimal hormonal balance. And in reality, it's the hormone sweet spot. Before we wrap up today, I want to acknowledge the season of the podcast. Maggie and I have spent the last year building the Menopause Moxie podcast. And I am genuinely grateful for the care, thought, and time that she's contributed as we brought these conversations to life. Without Maggie, I couldn't have done this. I really appreciate it, Maggie.
I'd like to just take a moment and thank everyone who's been with us on this season 1 journey, and thank you for listening. Marie, I appreciate the invitation to join you for this first season and the dialogue that we've shared. And for me personally, one clear takeaway is that I'm committed to staying on therapeutic levels of HRT for the rest of my life. It's made a profound difference in my life, and I'm grateful to have found what works for me. So to our listeners, I'd say, don't give up until you found your hormone sweet spot.
Thank you, Maggie. As the podcast evolves, I'll be moving forward in a solo format, focusing even more directly on clinical education and conversation around estrogen, hormone deficiency, and what women actually need to thrive in midlife and well beyond. A couple things that we're doing in season 2, a few things. Actually, we do have a lot of fun things in season 2, but we're going to talk about when conventional medicine steered away from treating menopause as a deficiency disease. I've been doing some research on that. That's really interesting. How to find a good hormone doctor. What questions to ask your hormone doctor. And I'll walk you through the steps of what hormone balancing looks like every step of the way. And there's just so much more. So if you're a woman struggling to get straight answers about your hormones, go to advancedhormonebalancing.com. Book a discovery session and let's see if one of our advanced hormone balancing programs is a good fit for you. Remember, everybody benefits when your hormones are balanced. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for joining us in season 1. I'm Marie Hoäg, and this is the Menopause Moxie podcast.